As y'all know, our first preseason game is later on this week, and something I will be doing during the season is doing like these pregame breakdowns of telling you who the team we're playing, what they're about, and you know what I'm saying, what can we expect, and you know how we're gonna beat those teams. So we're starting out in the preseason. We're doing the Lions. They just played their Hall of Fame game, so that's perfect. I get a chance to see what they were doing. Took me a while to get everything together, but since it's only one game, it's not gonna be a lot. But we're gonna do more as we get more film on other teams. But let's go on and get into the video, y'all. I really enjoyed doing this, so if you enjoy stuff like this, go on, subscribe, like the video for more, and let's get on into it. All right, so we're gonna start out with the Lions defense, y'all. So I just pretty much took notes off of watching every single snap, and once again, it's just only one game, so you're not gonna get necessarily a lot of things, but I will tell you what I saw, and I'll just report the information back to y'all. So primarily, they are a 4-down team, which means they run a lot of 4-down linemen, 3 linebackers, or when they're in their sub defenses, that means nickel, dime, quarter, all of that. They're in, a 4-2 box. But the one thing I like about them is that they're scheme versatile, right? So they can be a 4-3 team, but also get into their 3-4 looks right here. So when we zoom in on this right here, you see what I'm talking about, where this is a 4-3 defense, but they're in a odd defense, which means there are 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. And you typically see this out of, those 3-4 defenses, right? So when we get into like some of their tendencies, right, or what they're good and bad at. So I really didn't see a lot of gaps in their passing defense as far as like, oh, we can abuse X player, or we can do this, that, and the third. But I did notice that they struggle against the run, and this kind of carried over from last year, where their one weakness was the run game, where you could just sit there and run the ball down their throat the entire game, and it would wear on them eventually. Okay, so as a result of them struggling against the run, they do a lot of rundown blitzes. Okay, so that means on those rundowns, those early, those first downs, those second and shorts and all that, they're gonna be doing more blitzes to get aggressive, because they want to get you into that third down where they can run their favorite thing, which is man coverage. Okay, that also carried over from Aaron Glennon last year, right? And once again, since it's preseason, you're not going to see a lot of different things. So they run a lot of simple coverages, and they're going to be rare deception, especially out of their base looks, right? Because when you're in base personnel, that means you're going to have, your 3 or 4 down linemen, and with your 3 or 4 linebackers, you really can't disguise your coverages. You can't sit up there and do these crazy rotations and do this, that, and the third. You have to play more simple coverages, right? So we get to their third down defense. Once again, they're a heavy man-to-man team. They had 10 third down coverage snaps, and they ran man-to-man 9 times, okay? 4 of those being man blitzes, and 2 of these man blitzes being cover 0, right? So when they were running man coverage, almost half of the time they were going to blitz you, and half of those, or half of that half, they were going to have no safety help typically, okay? Towards the end of last season, when the Lions were beat to hell, they just started blitzing the hell out of teams, right? That's what we saw against the Vikings in that Week 18 game, where they were just blitzing the hell out of Sam Darnold, and it got to him, right? So that's another thing that really carried over from the Lions of last year, right? They run a lot of cover 2. You might see the occasional 3 deep underneath fire zone blitz, but it's mainly man coverage and cover 2. So when we get into the Lions offense, the one thing that has carried over, and one thing that I do notice, is that they're they have a very varied run game. Wait, let me just tell you that they have a very varied run game. Okay, that's what I meant by that. So they run zone and gap schemes. So if you look at the zone side of this, where typically you're going to have, we know what zone is, right? We run outside zone, so y'all know what this is. You're going to have a zone block to the right, you're going to have your SIF block to the left. You can do this is optional, but typically you see, that SIF block, okay? You can also have a lead blocker right here. You can, we do this with Charlie Warner. We send him in motion right here, and he's going to be a lead blocker for our running back, okay? But when we get to gap runs, that's where it gets a little bit different, okay? So for gap runs, that means we're going to be actually running to a gap, if that makes sense. So we're running counter right here, which means you're going to have this guard be the kick out guy and the tight end be the puller for the first linebacker that he sees, okay? But the whole thing is that about this, we're going to be running straight at you. We're going to be blocking somebody, right? They run a lot of play action on early downs because that was their bread and butter last year. That's how Amon-Ra St. Brown got 1,500 yards, right? That heavy play action on first down, where they're getting those hard fakes going, suck you in with the run, and then throw it over the top of those crossing routes, or those, those deep post routes to JMO, right? They're a motion heavy team, so that means our DBs are going to get tested with their discipline, their eye discipline, their leverage, and all that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they react to all the motion, because they do motion at the snap, and they also motion, they do the static motions where they're just going to motion and reset the formation and then go, right? They're going to do a lot of different stuff like that. Now, Other passing stuff, they do a lot of split field concepts. So that means you're going to be splitting the field in half, and you're going to be reading one side based on the defense, right? So for an example of this, we got, 4 receivers. Now, say, for example, we want to beat a one high defense, okay? We're going to do curl flat right here, where you're going to be running a curl route by the X receiver, okay? You're going to be running like an out route or an error route by the Z receiver, okay? This beats one high defenses, okay? Then if you want to beat a two high defense, you're going to do a smash concept right here, okay? You can do that because it's going to beat a two high defense, right? But also what the Lions do with their half field reads, they're going to make it into full field progression. So the way you make a curl flat a full field progression is you're going to have something built in backside that's coming back across the formation, okay? So for a two high beater, you can do drive. So that means you're going to have a shallow by the F receiver and a dig route by the Y receiver or the tight end. So this pretty much goes rhythm to one hitch, 2-3 or 2-3, right? That's pretty much how they do their passing concepts outside of the screen game. We know what their play action is about. So let's go on and get into the film. All right, so we're going to look at their run game stuff first. So I got 2 clips right here. We're going to look at, the 4-3 and the 4-2 boxes. But in this situation, it's not a 4-3. But remember, once again, a 4-3 is a 4 down, 3 linebackers. And then the opposite of that is a 3-4, 3 down, 4 linebackers. So in this situation right here, they're in a 3-4, which means you have your 2 outside linebackers right here, your 2 inside linebackers, your 3 down linemen, and then this right here is just a safety, okay? So offensively, what they're doing zone lead. So everybody's zone blocking to the top of the screen or to the left right here. You're going to have a lead blocker by the fullback. And then if you watch my Michael Penix Jr. video, so we have a motion right here, by the way, I forgot to say that, but when we know we have a tight end on, an isolated side or a nub tight end, we know that the corner is now a part of the run fit, okay? So he has to acknowledge the run now, right? So they're going to run zone left with a lead blocker, and everybody on the defensive line is going to win front side of this run, okay? Which is going to leave him one-on-one with a running back. So his initial path is going to be this way, and boom, he's going to cut it back and break that tackle. So the one thing I will say is if we can find ways to get corners on running backs, which is corners are the least wingless tacklers on the team, we can get a lot of stuff out of this. But we also want to notice this. So the ball is on the 46-yard line, okay? The line of scrimmage gets reestablished at the 45, right? And if you can give your running back just 1 yard, just 1 yard of free real estate, they can do whatever with it, right? Then we get into their 4-2 stuff. So this is a 4-2 box, right? Which means you have 5 DBs. Now this is the 5th DB instead of the extra linebacker. You can get more advantages in the run game as far as the offense. So they're in a 4-2 over, which means the 3 technique or this defensive tackle right here, he's going to be aligned in the B gap or between the guard and the tackle. And so they're going to set to the tight end because that's what most defenses do. They set to the tight end, right? And so what the offense is doing here, they're doing a power read where they're going to have these 2 guys pull across the formation. Everybody's going to down block this way, okay? And you're going to be reading this defensive end or outside linebacker, whatever you want to call him. You're going to be reading this guy right here. So the initial mesh point is going to be going this way. You're going to be reading this guy once again. If he acknowledges a running back, you're going to keep this ball. You're going to ride this mesh, keep the ball, and get behind your blockers and get as many yards as you can. But if this defensive end, if he chases these pullers, guess what? Nobody's accounting for the running back, and you could just leave it to him, and he'll be out in open space, okay? When we do run our, our zone running, we can still get advantageous stuff like this, right? Where we getting out on the edge because we do like a lot of wide zone. We get out on the edge, and nobody can catch our running backs. But, we don't really know who's going to be starting the running back at, that day. So, once again, this is how you can take advantage of these little lighter boxes because you get better numbers in the run game because you have to acknowledge the pass when you're in a sub defense, right? That's what that's out there for. And we get stuff like this because, once again, lighter personnel, which means bigger run plays. So now we're into their coverages. This is the man coverage portion of this. So once again, they're a man-heavy team, okay? In this situation, they're just going to go man coverage, and they're going to have this safety come down and play, the rat zone. You're going to have this guy play the deep middle. You're going to have the linebacker on this running back, and everybody's just mano-a-mano behind a 4-man rush. So this is pretty simple stuff right here. And don't need to explain a lot of this, okay? You're going to see how it plays out. And so that's pretty much what, their man coverage is. Nothing exotic, right? But then when we get into their blitzes, right? I remember telling y'all that they did a lot of blitz zero stuff. So they're going to send, 6 guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? And everybody, once again, they're man-to-man on their guy. But what they do is instead of having this guy man up on the running back, they would have him play in the middle of the field, right? Because a lot of protections nowadays, they're going to have this running back checking protection, right? So if their guy comes on a blitz who they're supposed to be checking, they're going to stand and block. And then when you do that and you have a guy allocated to this running back, he's going to be doing nothing. Either you handle him with a green dog blitz, right? Which means if you secure man blocking, you're going to go add into the pressure, or you can just drop him in the middle. You don't want him just sitting out here doing nothing, right? So that's just how they get into their zero looks. A lot of teams are starting to do this. They've probably been doing it for all I know, but look at this. You're going to see it once again. This guy, he's just pretty much occupying space. If anything comes across the middle, he's going to take it. And, you know, you're going to force those one-on-ones when you blitz. And since we blitz, I think you're going to see a lot of this when we play the Lions. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, so now we're into their other, like their zone coverages now. So what I noticed is that they like to blitz this weak side linebacker a lot, you know, in their zone blitzes. So when it's those early downs and it's those run blitzes as well, or those run downs rather, they will blitz this guy a lot. So what they're doing is they're doing a 2 deep 4 underneath, okay? They're going to send this guy on a blitz right behind, you know, all these 4 guys, okay? You're going to drop out this guy. He's going to play a hook zone. He's going to be playing deep half. You have a deep half right here. You have a flat player and another flat player, okay? And that's what we got right here. Since we're in base, we're going to look at this real quick. You're going to see that they're not going to necessarily, you know, attach to a man. They're just going to kind of fall off, and you get more spot drop, okay? And as you can see of that, makes Trey Lance hold the ball. He has to escape out of the pocket, and he takes a sack, right? Then when we get into their regular cover 2 stuff, so look at this motion right here. They're in this 5-man front still, okay? But, you know, you're still going to get your 4 guys blitzing. You're still going to have your flat players, okay? You're going to have your hook to seams right here. You're going to have your middle run through. You're going to have your deep half guys, right? Simple cover 2 defense. Not a lot of disguise, not a lot of pre-snap rotation, or post-snap rotation rather. But as you can see right here, you see pretty simple 3 or 2 deep zone, 5 underneath, okay? Forces the check down. And yeah, that's pretty much what they're running coverage wise. Once again, there's no real deception. There's nothing really crazy about it. It's just mainly cover 2 and man coverage, right? You might see, you know, your occasional cover 3 or 3 deep, 3 underneath fire zone, but this is mainly what they're running. Now, offensively, when we look at their running game, like I said before, they're varied. So they run, you know, gap and zone runs. So I have 3 examples. This one is a duo run. So the way you differentiate duo and inside zone is that you look at the path of the running back, right? You're going to have your duo blocks be this way, right? Okay. But then the running back's initial path is this way. So if he's going opposite of the lineman's track, that's how you know it's duo. They're going to motion this guy over, okay? And then he's going to be an insert block on the most dangerous man at the second level. So just check it out right here. You see the initial pass is going to be to the left. They're pretty much blocking to the right. You get your one-on-one with the wide receiver right here, free cutback, and they get a successful run off of this, okay? So this is what you need to look out for when we're looking at their run game, because they're very effective at this regardless of who's in the game, right? Now we look at their actual gap runs with pullers, okay? They're going to be down blocking this way, okay? You're going to have your center pull be the kick out. This is going to be the lead blocker. Now, they don't get a lot out of this, right? But they did this a lot in this Chargers game, which has to make you honor it, okay? Just because it wasn't successful doesn't mean you don't have to honor it, right? They're going to probably come right back to it. And plus, they did it a lot in the regular season where they, you know, pull guys across the formation and they're running right behind them. So this is something that we have to look out for. Let's go into the zone runs because everybody knows what that is, right? We do it ourselves. As you can see, I don't really need to draw anything up, but, you know, everybody's zone stepping to the left. This is pretty much wide zone, and everybody wins across into their play side gap, but that leaves the cutback open, and if you have a running back elusive enough, he can hit those cutbacks and gas you for it, and they got a touchdown out of this. So that's pretty much their run game. Nothing, you know, too complex, just pretty simple and straightforward because they have the guys to do it, right? So now we're into their pass game stuff, and like I said before, they do a lot of split field stuff. So for this example right here, what the Lions are doing, they're going to split the field in half. Like I said, they're going to run a in cut right here, okay? They're going to run a hitch route or a grab route, whatever you want to call it. And then on this side of the formation, you're going to have a post route by the number 2 receiver or a glance, whatever you want to call it. Then you're going to have a curl route by the number 2. You're going to have this guy swinging out, you know, and creating a high-low read on this guy right here. So you would pretty much read this. So we're going to get this back up here where you got this grab route, and then you're going to have this in cut. The way you would typically read this split field concept is if you get 2 high right here, you're going to read this guy right here. You're going to read this side of the concept. If you get 1 high, you're going to read this side of the concept, okay? And they start on the 2 high shell, which means the quarterback is going to initially eye this way, but you always key the weak side rotation when you're reading coverages because he rotates down, they're going to play cover 3 buzz, okay? So when we watch this play out, his eyes are supposed to go to this side of the field, right? And you see, the reads are there for these 2 guys. You can just pick whichever one. Now, granted, this route is open. It's a good throw. However, that's not where you're supposed to go. But either way, if it's an open receiver, it's an open receiver, right? And he liked that look, and he got it, but it was an incomplete pass. Could have been ruled a fumble, but yeah. So we get into this next split field look where it's a little bit different because, like I said before earlier, you can run these split field looks. However, you can also build in progressions on the backside. So everybody loves doing this stick full field progression where you're going to have this stick concept up here. Going to have a dig route by the number 2. Going to have a little sit route by the number 1. And once again, you have a swing route. They get into the same thing, but they just do it in a different way, right? So once again, this is a split field concept at its heart where if you have this off, cover 2 shell, you're going to be reading this guy right here. Or if he expands immediately, you have your stick route. But if he sticks to this stick route, you're going to have your flat you're going to have your arrow route in the flat immediately, right? And if both of those get taken away, guess what? You can reset to your dig, to your little stop route, to your swing route. Simple as that. Stuff like this is why our defense was so bad because look at how far these guys are playing off, right? You see how far they're playing off? And they just took that easy little hitch route for 5 yards. This happened to us all season. So we have to not do this next season. And please don't do it next season. All right, so now we're looking at their play action concept. So once again, I always said on early downs, they're going to be a lot of heavy play action. So we know we're going to have this fake right here. And he's going to set up to throw. Now, what they're doing on this play right here, they love the flood concept off of the play action. So you're going to get a sneak route by him or a slide route. You're going to have the intermediate part of this concept be by the backside receiver. He's going to run a pylon route, and you see your 3-level progression is right here. This is your alert right here where if you get a certain look, you're going to throw it. You're going to be reading 1, then down to 2, or some coaches do 2 to 1 where you're going to read 1 to, to 2, okay? So you see the 3-level progression gets, created, and you also have your you get out of jail free card right here, okay, in case everybody just overcommits, which happens, okay? And you can get that if you want to, but the original progression is going to be your first 2 guys, which is your crossing route and your sneak route. And good catch and run. This is why Amon-Ra St. Brown had like 1,500 yards, stuff like that. Get into our next one where you're going to have this motion right here. This is my favorite play action concept right here. So it's something called Yankee. Now, once again, off of an under center play action, right? You're going to sell that run fake. You're going to set up the throw. You're going to have your crossing route by Isaac Tesla, or I think that's how you say his name. And then you're going to have your post route by this receiver right here. Okay, this one is always the alert receiver because you don't want to throw this unless you got a certain look. And you're trying to hit this crossing route, right? And then you're going to have your check down over here somewhere. Okay, now what I like about this play is that it was successful because guess what? The initial window wasn't there to hit this crossing route because this guy got up under it. But we're going to watch how he's going to buy himself some time, run and create that throwing window, and boom, another catch and run. So we have to stay disciplined because this guy got a little bit too caught up in the wash of the run game, and he didn't see the receiver sneak behind him, and it created that window, and it was another big catch and run. They got in the field goal range off of that. Now, they did throw a pick, but, still, this is, how they get their chunk plays is off of play action under center, those hard play fakes. So you may think preseason is kind of useless, but I have the mindset of you're only as strong as your weakest link. So I would really want to see our guys come out here and really not dominate, but show that they can be, NFL quality players. I'm not saying preseason success translates to regular season success, but when we talking about having, depth guys or guys trying to fight for roster spots, if we have those depth pieces in place that are showing they can, perform when the lights are bright, then I'm going to be very confident in their ability if guys go down. So that's why I'm really into what this preseason is going to bring, because we have a lot of guys. There's a lot of competition on this roster, and I want to see how it shakes out. So this is my first preseason where I'm just watching closely to see who makes the roster. So yeah. But if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more. I'm gonna do more stuff like this. Let me know if y'all will want more stuff like this. Now, I'm not gonna do both sides of the ball every time because that's a lot of work. I'm probably gonna do offense or defense, but depending on what I'm seeing. But that's about it. I'll see you guys later in the next video. Goodbye.